We are entering an interesting time of year for me. It is a few weeks before what's called in astrology, the Mercury Retrograde. And whether you're interested in astrology or not is not that important. I am personally. What this is a retrograde is when the planets around Earth, from the perspective of Earth, appear to be moving backwards. Personally, I like this time because it allows me to take inventory of my relationship with whatever the planet symbolizes. In the case of Mercury, it covers areas that are quite pervasive for me and really for everyone else. The planet Mercury is associated with travel, with technology, with communication, and with thoughts and perceptions. So what we know from space is that Mercury is the smallest planet of our solar system. It is the closest to the sun. And essentially, it's the planet associated with being the messenger. I believe in Greek mythology, Mercury was called Hermes, which is the messenger god. So there is a real lightness and a quickness and a lightning speed associated with all things Mercury, but that does not mean that it is free from intensities at all, actually. And so I like to take the weeks of the year where this planet is in retrograde, and because a retrograde moves backwards, the way I understand it is that it is time to look inward instead of how we perceive the outer world, which is an important thing to know. But first, we can only truly know that when we know the lens with which we view the self and the universe within. And so because Mercury is so close to the sun, Mercury retrogrades happen 3, maybe 4 times a year. And so I actually find that cycle really helpful, because isn't it such a gift of the universe that if you are interested in something like astrology, you have the opportunity to create an intention around your thoughts, your travel, your tech, your communication, inward and outward, 3 or 4 times a year for a few weeks. And if you are part of astrology circles, you will often find, and this is actually like a weird thing to Google, if you Google Mercury retrogrades or any retrogrades, you'll see a lot of articles that complain about it. Almost like, or you'll see 5 tips on how to survive a retrograde, like as if people are talking about it like it's Armageddon. And it really isn't like that. The way I see it is the universe, the earth, the world gives us ample opportunity to come into harmony, into resonance, into coherence within the self. And yes, things seem hard sometimes, but are they hard because someone, something, a situation, a person, a planet is doing things to us? Or are they hard because we are rigid and stuck in our own view of the world? We are so swayed by our past traumas or future anxieties that we have forgotten flow, that we have forgotten our truth. Have we forgotten that we are change, we are transformation, we are luminous, we are light, we are all things light and shadow. I find this where mercurial energies, and especially the retrogrades, are hard for people is, firstly, it forces you to look inwards. And for the most part, in a distracted, busy society, no one wants to take the time and patience to look inward, which is very ironic because I ignored it for the longest time. And when I finally could no longer ignore it, it was awful and hard, and all sorts of thoughts and emotions and baggage and trauma came up. But then once that cleared, it is pretty awesome. it's really awesome to realize who you are in the journey of your day, in the journey of your life. And not, it's, this is, I do not have the answers to the existential question of who I am, but at least in this moment, I know it's a journey. I'm on it. Things break me and shake me and enrage me and grieve me just as the next person. But it's like, I now know that the universe has my back in some way. And I came to that understanding because, well, for a variety of different reasons, but also because I chose to work with it. I chose to work with energies instead of against them. I chose to surrender my preferences, my choices, my desires, to seeing what is it that I'm not seeing? What is happening in the weeks around a Mercury or a Venus or a Saturn transit or a retrograde that I'm really fighting against? And I find it a very interesting way to get to know yourself. And for a lot of people who don't care about astrology, that's fine too. Maybe for you, it's, you know, painting or a musical instrument or journaling or whatever your art or your craft or your joy or passion is. For me, it part of it is definitely astrology, but I think we can find the things we already enjoy that already pique our interest. Maybe it's a sci-fi movie, or like I love comics, so I use comics all the time, and every time there's a reference of something around, you know, magic and technology, or, you know, something to do with the planet Mercury, I always enjoy it and I love it and I allow a journey with it. But I was not always this way. And I think it's interesting sometimes how we disconnect the things we like, the things we enjoy, from learning about ourselves. And this is where I really appreciate the lessons and the medicines of the planet Mercury. And so I wanted to dive in a little bit. And it's so funny, the zodiac sign associated with Mercury is Geminis and Virgos. And even though they're very different zodiac signs, the Gemini energy is an interesting one. And it's a very prevalent energy in my chart, for example. And Geminis are all about questions, asking questions, inner, like what we ask of ourselves, how we show up in the world. And so in that theme, these are some of the questions I ask myself to sort of understand, get a snapshot, as I said earlier, this inventory of my relationship. And so the four major themes that I like to work with, and there's many more, these are just the ones I like to work with, around Mercury, are technology, travel, communication, and thoughts and perceptions. Now, why is all this important? If we look at our thoughts, our perceptions of life, of culture, it dictates how we intake the world around us, whether it's news, when your friend calls, when a parent says something, all our judgments, our opinions, it's all colored from the lens with which we perceive ourselves. How we view ourselves also falls into that category. I'm sure this has happened to almost everyone, but you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I look terrible today. And then you step out and someone compliments you. And that's a lovely feeling, but there's a little bit of a dissonance because you do not see that which they see. Or, the flip happens. You're like, oh, I look amazing. And then you step out and someone's like, my God, you look so exhausted. You're like, what? And what feels in the moment like dissonance is really that difference of perception. And why is that? When we look at ourselves in the mirror and we feel fat, ugly, inadequate, when we, create a piece of work and it's not perfect and it's not good enough, we are perceiving ourselves as less, bad, inadequate, not good enough, or maybe on the flip side, we think we're the most amazing thing. Everything we create is just amazing and wonderful, and everyone else is crazy for not seeing it, for not seeing our brilliance. We don't feel seen, we don't feel recognized. And it's very interesting. So when you look at the world around you, or you look at yourself, perception dictates what it is that we are actually beholding. Are you beholding problems? Are you beholding solutions? Are you beholding that which you cannot do, that you cannot be? Or the opposite? What is the reflection of self? And questions like this, when I asked myself that, often standing in front of the mirror, they would rock me to my core. These are not easy. Like I said, Mercury has like this airy lightness to it, but some of what comes from this type of self journey is not light. It can be eventually, once we're more practiced and once we come to a more stable place in ourselves. But in the beginning, certainly a lot of crap comes up. And so this is why I choose to work with these energies, these questions, really from my perspective, when the planets align. So I tend to do them during those weeks in a year where the planet is in retrograde. In my brain, in my universe, I interpret it as the universe has me, the stars are aligned, and it just gives me a type of spiritual strength, I suppose, a quiet strength that knows that it's these few weeks, I'm gonna move through this, I'm gonna ask these questions of myself, and then when the planet, returns from its retrograde and moves into what's called direct, which is its normal, spinning around the planet, spinning around the sun from the perspective of Earth, I will also rebirth. I will also emerge. And so that's what maybe this sounds absolutely ludicrous, crazy to you, but it's worked for me for years. And I do this every time one of the the planets of the solar system here have cycles like that. And I do it intentionally. And it's so interesting when you actually make an intention, whether you're following the lunar cycle, whether you're planning a project, how things come to harmony. Because I think that is a big wound in our perception for humanity. We perceive the world around us, and often the world within us, as disharmonious, as separate, as struggle, suffering, strife. And there is a difference in what we see in the different versions of reality that we have, and then what we hold, what our inner knowing, what our third eye, what our heart believes, what our cells and our organs know. And this is really the whole movement for spirituality. We can have difficulty, grief, loss, rage, injustice, and we can know that there is creation. We can be reminded that there is transformation, creative solutions. Again, this is that question: are we focusing on joy? Are the problems the only thing that we're seeing, or are we also seeing solutions? And maybe we don't have the solutions. Maybe, me sitting on my couch does not have the solution to global famine. But this is where intention comes in. Am I putting all of my thoughts, my energy into the famine, into the problem? Or am I putting it into the solution? Well, what could happen? What would this world even look like? And then would my energy, if you follow the laws of manifestation, would I find news articles, projects where people in different communities are growing gardens, figuring out different ways of having creative solutions with supply chains, doing different things to nourish and feed themselves, their families, and their communities. Because once you vibrate in the solution, in the energy of the solution, then solutions are attracted to you. That's the golden rule of manifestation. If you get stuck in problems, if you get stuck in frustration, if you get stuck in wanting, you just get more of that. You get more frustration, more problems, more wanting, and less, oh, amazing, this is here. And so I find it like a little bit of a thought spirit experiment, but it absolutely involves our feelings as well, because it is not just, you know, saying positive things repeatedly and ignoring our feeling center, but actually feeling full, feeling peace, feeling radiant, feeling like our perspective can expand, that it is safe to expand. And so these are some of the questions around perspective, and it's why it's such a big one, because our perspective hits and covers everything. And it's similar with communication as well. And when Mercury especially is in retrograde, to me, it's certainly how we communicate with others, but to me, the light shines more on how we communicate to ourselves. Are we the nicest, kindest, most loving person to the world? And then inside, we swear and we cuss and we cut ourselves down? If so, which you is true? And truth is a big thing here around communication as well, because we often lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves lies like, we are not worthy, we cannot change, we're stupid, that other person is better, prettier, more successful, that we'll always be stuck in, you know, this marriage, that job, things like that. And to me, that's a lie. To me, none of that's true. As someone who has said that to herself for a very, very long time. And so the questions around communication is, what is the inner talk? Whose voice is in your head? Is it your voice? Is it the voice of, you know, some authority figure, maybe a parent yelling at you or something like that? Like, whose voice are we listening to? What is the voice of our wise one within? What is the voice of our intuition? What is our gut telling us? What is our liver telling us? All our organs hold infinite wisdom, yet we choose, most of us, to move through our lives simply with our perception, which is frankly probably all clouded, and our, you know, our thoughts and opinions. We don't check in with our heart, let alone our gut, unless something is wrong. And so this is where we learn with communication to actually be in communion with our body, so that our full form, our thoughts, our emotions, our physicality, our being, our essence shows up to our day, to family dinners, to work, to the grocery store. And this is sort of unfolding and unfurling all of that communion within the self, and then how it shows up into the world. Travel is another part of a big thing that I associate with Mercury. And this isn't so much about where we're going on trips, but it's a big one for me, because planning for me is about control and distraction. So it's this funny thing, right? Like when you're newly dating someone, I think there's a saying somewhere, like a contemporary saying, if you want to know about the person you're dating, go travel with them. Like, who are they when they're stuck in an airport for 7 hours and the flight's been canceled? Are they a rage monster? Are they the person that pushes other people? Are they screaming at everyone? Are they paralyzed with anxiety? Are they complaining? Are they frustrated? Are they like chilling in a cafe, sipping tea, reading a book? Because that actually shows us truths about who we are, how controlling or rigid we are, how flexible we are. And the distraction piece is a big one, because a lot of people travel because it's freedom and an escape from the present moment, from your city, from your work, from your house. And that is an interesting thing to know, because it tells you if your everyday reality is a prison or not. And these are hard things to realize, because once you realize them, you cannot help but do something about it. And again, the point of all this isn't that you tomorrow change every aspect of your life, but come to know how you perceive the world, come to know yourself through travels. For the people who could not travel in the last few years during the lockdowns, did you experience a feeling of trappedness, depression, anxiety? Does travel allow you freedom? In which case, do you feel not free? Do you, within yourself? Are you imprisoned in your house? Are you in a social or familial situation that isn't supportive of your expression, of your joy, of your sovereignty? And again, this is not about end this relationship now, but this is where we learn to realize our truths so that we can work with the fullness of who we are. The last one is a personal love and big one for me. I work in health tech. And so the technology piece is a big one. Technology, by its nature, amplifies what is. So, you know, our eyes can see, and so we have telescopes so that we can see further. We have microscopes so that we can, you know, see what the naked eye cannot see. And because technology is pervasive, I think this actually gets hard for people. To me, the human body is the most brilliant and magnificent piece of technology that walks the earth. And, you know, I'm sure the bodies of all mammals are like that, but I'm speaking to you as a human, so, you know, human bodies. How the entire system communicates in this harmony, how the senses, the sight, the smell inform like the inner organs. I once heard this, like when you're served a beautiful, amazing, you know, plate of food, and if you take the time to smell your food and you start to lightly salivate, all of that triggers your stomach, and it starts producing it has time to produce acids that help in the deeper and a stronger digestion of the food. So that to me is brilliant. So this isn't simply about the efficiency of consuming and then pulling the energy and then eliminating what doesn't exist. We are wired for joy, for pleasure, and for a bodily efficiency, sort of like forests. And I think that's brilliant. And so I think technology is hard for people simply because, again, I work in tech, but if you've ever lost or dropped your phone, or if you got locked out of your Instagram account or some account got deleted, the panic in people is crazy. And that is interesting. So to me, you know, we obviously, like, our bodies are physical, but there's a huge electrical component as well. There's a magnetic component, and the level of stress people carry when it comes to their technology is quite high. And I think technology amplifies a lot of our emotions. If we use technology to distract ourselves, then it amplifies that. We might feel disconnected. If we use technology to talk to our loved ones far away, and that's the intention, then it connects us, and we feel like our heart expanding because we're looking at, you know, our loved one, like giggling and laughing miles and miles away. But technology in itself is neither good or bad. Again, this is all about how we're communing. What is our perception? What are we using it for? Are we using technology to spread hatred, to spread gossip, to spread separation? Are we using technology to bring people together, to gather people towards a certain intention? All of these things they inform us about who we are, about who we actually are, which is often very different from who we show ourselves to be. And so this is why these are some of the big Mercurian energies that I find really helpful in showing me who I am and showing me where I have unconsciously or consciously built some masks and walls and facades that I present to the world, because I am not interested in authentic separate, like a separation-based, inauthentic experience of life. That's not why I'm here. I do not care to show up in those ways. And so I find it very helpful to gently and step by step over a period of time, dive into some of these concepts to show me who I am, so that I may choose who I am meant to be and who I'm here to be. And technology is a huge one because, you know, everything, if you are someone who reads an article or watches a film or reads or watches something about artificial intelligence or like robotic arms that are attached to the human body or cryptocurrency, and you have great fear, or you're like, oh my God, this is overwhelming, this is crazy, I cannot even, and you're pushing it away. Again, technology in itself is neither good nor bad. This is simply telling you, with the current perceptions, thoughts, with your current sense of who you are, with your current composition and complement, all of this stuff that you're watching, you're listening, you're reading to, there is a repulsion energy. Or maybe you love it and you're very attracted to it. And regardless of where you are, the space here exists beyond judgment. But it is interesting to know why. A lot of people love AI and like, you know, bionic arms and feet and legs because they believe it will make them better. So does some part of you think of your humanity as diseased and damaged and less than, and only a robotic part of you would make you better? If so, why? Do you believe that, you know, if you have AI, you know, stuff happening in the world, it's going to be like some version of Terminator? If so, why? Are you that influenced by that movie? What would you do in your house? Technology, emotions, power, communication, how we perceive all of this, they are huge in our world, and we bypass the inner work very often, and we're very interested in judging the world that we see. And if that is something that you choose to do in this time, that is, you know, your choice. You're probably not going to like and subscribe and follow this channel, but if you are interested in knowing yourself, in actually getting to know yourself, know the world, know the universe, remember and realize that one of the constants of the universe is change. And you, as an envoy of the universe on the planet, as a physical manifested representation, are also change. Ourselves create and destroy and are birthed and fall away second to second, moment to moment. Change exists within you. So if you're someone who does not self-journey because you are afraid of change, why are you afraid of this part of yourself? What are you so attached to? And these are all questions that are difficult to ask. And one of my ways through this, as I said earlier, is to do it at certain times of the year. Do it when the planets align. And maybe you don't have to. Maybe you just, you know, light a candle one day and sit with your phone while it's turned off, and you figure out what your relationship is with it. Maybe you go on a camping trip or out to the park for an afternoon without any technology. So no GPS, no phone, certainly no laptop, and see, there is a great power that comes with questioning things. And we question the world and we question authority and all of that, and that is so needed. But we also have to question the self, because it is only when we question the self can we learn to discern what is truth from what sounds like truth but isn't truth, what's a half truth, what's a flat out lie. And we come into that discernment. We are sharpening our swords. We are sharpening our wit. We are aligning our intellect with our intuition. We are combining the world and the realm of thought and perception to the world and the realm of feeling. And together, not in a world of either or, but rather in the world of both and, we show up in our fullness, in our wholeness, in our radiance. And this is the gift, the continual unfolding gift and the blessing of self-journeying, of self-work, because you plunge in and it is deeply uncomfortable and it will pull the rug from under you and it will rock your world. And you will find that you are so much more powerful, beautiful, brilliant, radiant, courageous, successful than you ever conceived that you were. And this is that perception that was this way, and it widens a little bit more, and it widens a little bit more, and it widens a little bit more. And you come into yourself. We are all on this journey, consciously or unconsciously. But those of us who are more conscious about it, those of us who are choosing to share it, it's not that anyone knows more than you. The big realization is that we are all equal. We're all in this boat, on this wave together. And my last note on perception is, perception and technology especially, is this whole space around how we interpret our evolving world. So if you are someone who wakes up every day and you consider yourself inadequate, or you're very interested in the facades and the masks and the faces that you wear, know that you don't know who you are yet, and no one else does, because no one's had a chance to. And so from that place, if you are perceiving the world as it is, you will likely see more of the struggle, more of the problems. And this isn't about denying the shadow or in the dark. This is about finding beauty in the shadow of ourselves, in the shadow of the world around us, so that when there is light, we also celebrate it. It is a coming together, that beautiful, like the yin and the yang imagery, where you have shadow and you have light, and in the shadow exists a bit of light, and in the light exists a bit of shadow, and the piece is beautiful. The image is beautiful because it is in wholeness. It's a dance. The image is static, so it just looks like it's, black and white and like a dot here and a dot there. But actually, in the quantum perspective, that is not a static icon. It's not a static symbol. It moves. It is a dance. It is constantly in flux. We are in flux, in physical manifestation, in a universe that is in flux, in an earth that has seasons and movements, and everything edges you, encourages you, warms you, heals you, nourishes you to knowing, to receiving, to accepting yourself. That is the invitation. And it's a fun party if you ever want to join. Have a great day.